Brilliant. So here we go. Hello, hello. Welcome to the Inside Hustle interview series, Unfiltered Soul Truth. I'm Joanna Walden. I am a conscious visionary, cosmic change agent, really. I've sort of been saying these days as well. I work in the in transformation using geometry, sound, and light in the multidimensional space. I'm also an author and a speaker. And I have started this interview series to bring beautiful people I've come across on my journey onto this stage in this community and to share their knowledge and wisdom far and wide and just have really cool co-creative conscious conversations. And so today my guest is the beautiful Grayham Forscutt, and he is a long-time way shower and developer of a heliocentric galactic center-orientated astrology. And I am so loving that we're going to dive really deeply into this today. Graham has worked with remote viewing, Stargate timing, plasma cosmology, and a unique alphanumeric transference code that maps words across access nodes for multidimensional information. He is one of the most cosmic, amazing beings I have come across on my journey. He's had direct contact with intelligence fields at the center of our galaxy and developed specific protocols and astrological tools to help people align with cosmic timings and activate their light body. He's done some beautiful, amazing work in all sorts of areas. And so I'd love to welcome Graham here today to share with you all of this or some of this beautiful knowledge and wisdom. Thank you, Graham.
Well, thanks for that intro. Sounds exciting, doesn't it?
Very exciting.
And it's nice,
So
nice to
welcome,
interact
welcome.
with with another Kiwi here from New Zealand,
Yes, I
bringing
know.
the wisdom down here in the South Pacific. That's always nice.
Yes, I mean, I do feel like we've got some pretty potent, pertinent energies that are somewhat leading the way on the global stage, and certainly a lot to dive into. Now, I don't know if you want to introduce anything or just get right into your presentation that you've got that's going to take us through the differences. Because I thought what would be really wonderful is for Graham to really explain the difference in the kind of astrology that he has. And I've had my chart done and it was really amazing. Gave me such incredible insights and a lot of it made so much sense. And I was already sort of doing it on track with many of the things that came through. But I also just found it really inspiring and expansive in many ways. And it is very different to Vedic astrology, to other kinds of Western astrology out there, or any other charts that you may have seen. And so I thought it would be really cool to just dive in and go through exactly what it is and how it works so that you understand it better.
Absolutely. Well, a few words first. I've been doing this for like 40 years. And
Wow.
so bit by bit, this goes back to the mid 1980s. And I grew up left-handed. So I was basically artistic, psychic, intuitive, and I was poor at mathematics and that side of it. So after some initial remote viewing or remote experiencing might be a better way of putting it, I decided that to be useful, more useful to everybody and myself, is that I needed to bring in the metaphysics or the science to support, back up, prove what I'm actually experiencing. And also then it makes it more holistic when I'm sharing why we do this astrology this way. We bring in the kind of the latest cutting edge astro metaphysics side of it. So I've got a bunch of images that we can look at, and I'll walk you through or talk you through these images,
Mm.
and then by the end of it, we'll have a look at Joan's chart here and see what we've got there as well. So what I do now is I just need to flick on this share, and that
That's
should,
beautiful.
unless you want to add something at this point.
Not at all. I think let's get into it. It's just such a
Okay.
fascinating tool and technique that you've brought through. It makes so much sense to me, and focusing more into the organic templates out of kind of the illusory construct of this reality of which we are bombarded with on the daily. And so I just love it. And yeah, I think it'll be really interesting for everyone to experience a little bit of the magic of what you do and what you're all about.
Okay, cool. Let's press on share and bring up the chart here or bring up the PDF. So hopefully that's visible to
Yeah.
everybody.
Yes.
When I'm looking at this, as you know, there's I can see most of it, but there are up in the corner there, there's you and me. So a little bit of this is blocked out, but I assume that you can see it all. So this is just the introduction plate here. We're doing oh, that's the we're doing a calendar next year. So partly it'll be just like an ebook or an online calendar or something that is just downloadable rather than printing it out. So even though I don't really call it starseed astrology, and in a sense, I've got my website, Galactic Astrology, and it's more than that. So as time goes on, I keep thinking maybe I should change the title to the website, but nevertheless, there, there it is. But I'm probably not going to do much about it now.
No.
So, so I'm not sure whether you guys can see this. I can make
Yes.
it bigger if you can't actually see the written words there, but I'll just try and make it a little bit bigger there. Oop, oop.
Perfect.
Okay, so um, this goes back to maybe yeah, mid 1980s, and I was learning how to astral travel, remote view. I was doing the Kundalini yoga and all that kind of thing,
Mm.
and uh, I began to experience, oh yeah, I can do this. It seemed as if it's something that was pretty natural to do. And about the same time, I was studying sacred geometry and I was beginning to use this alphanumeric system. It's so simple. A's 1, Z's 26, just
Mhm.
a number for each of the English alphabet letters there. Later on, I realized from a couple of different sources that the lowercase curvy English letters, so not the straight edge capitals, but the curviness, like calligraphic letters,
Yes.
they are actually snippets. They're like little fragments that you would cut with a pair of scissors of what's called the golden ratio spiral going through a vortex. Now, that vortex is the center of like a torus or a donut shape. You know, think of a donut that you eat. So the vortex, the spiral that goes through that, and it goes round the outside of that torus up, down through the top again, so it's continually flowing through there. And you can grab that torus and sort of tilt it at different angles based on the geometries of reality itself, the axis codes of reality, and you can look at it and this phi spiral going through, out, and around, and so on, circulating. And then you can just isolate it, like freeze it for a moment, and you can take little snapshots, little fragments of that curving spiral, that golden ratio spiral. And you can cut the little fragments. And a friend of mine, Dan Winter, has done this. There's another person that's done it another kind of way. And there's the 26 letters of the English alphabet. So that torus shape and that vortex going through the center, that is the smallest going down to the 0 point, what they call the Planck constant, where the threshold of going from this side of light speed into the superluminal, that's in one way by science seen as a torus shape. And at the other side of it, the cosmic scale, often you'll see cosmotopologists mapping the shape of the universe as a large torus donut shape. So the English alphabet, the English letters here, they're cross scale. They are all scale inclusive. And that, in another way, is saying all dimension inclusive. So what I did was, with these 26 letters, I began to keep a diary of my experiences going back there 40 odd years or so, of my experiences. I had maps of the galaxy and maps of the stars, and I was firing my consciousness. I was aiming my consciousness towards different stars and the galactic center and so on. And
Mm.
this was just some of the phrases that I ended up recording in my diary of alphanumerics. And here we've got alphanumeric number 222 on the left, and then the other smaller one there, 253. So when I come up with a phrase, or I feel intuited to work out a phrase or a word or so, then what I do is I add the numbers up for the letters. I don't care what number it equals. I'm just going to put it wherever it goes and lodge it into that number. So I'm not looking for any kind of preferences. I'm just purely compiling these phrases. So we've got on the left here a bunch of phrases. Now, I've had these for nearly 40 years, most of these. So
Mm.
we've got the Native American term, grandfather, eagle spirit. Then we've got the center of the galaxy, galactic wide unity field, the spirit of Christ overseeing the galaxy, celestial civil service, galactic administration, the real galactic federation, integrated overview, etc., etc.
Mm.
So there's a bunch of phrases which are so coherent when you work out each one of them. Each one comes from a different school of thought or from science or from esoteric traditions and so on. So they're all equal. They're like a node of resonance, a node of coherence. The smaller ones there, so I think I've got another one here which has that as well, which is slightly bigger. Perhaps not. So, here it is. So just a bit bigger here. Here's the 253. So the style of astrology we're using here and have been for 40 years is called heliocentric astrology. So here's a bunch of phrases here. The spiritual hierarchy, integrated ascended masters, initiated in the solar core, in the center of the sun. Starseed activation chamber, tuned to the galactic center. We'll go into that more deeply in a few images here further on. Galactic Activation Portal, Unified Galactic Society, Awakening Starseed Wanderers, Grounded Cosmic Energies. And then we've got Applying the Golden Phi Ratio, which is just about everything I do, including all this astrology is based on the golden ratio, enlightened co-creatorship. So there's a few phrases there. Again, that's a coherence node in the fabric of reality, in the dimensional passing through dimensions and so on. That is a node, even though the 253 is not the interesting part. It's the node of cross references of phrases or terms there. So
Right.
I'm going to explain now what I mean by heliocentric astrology. So we'll just go back up here, but
Do you
here we
think
are, sun
do
here.
you think do you think the resonance of those nodes, that those numbers are referencing, is what is potentially trying to trigger our consciousness if we are seeing those numbers or any particular number
Absolutely.
sequence sequentially? Yeah. Yeah, I thought so.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Um, so part of what I do is that we have astrologers and people and psychic and remote viewers and so on. Um, I always want to have something which is grounded enough to be more useful in the sense that you can take what I'm sharing and you can go and do your own research and you can come out, well, that is the cutting edge metaphysics, the cutting edge science. So in a way, it's prompting a person to sort of take it to the next level or do what they want with it. And
Mm,
hopefully that gives them a more whole or integrated experience, on going into the future.
perfect.
So that, yeah. So here's our sun here, or all the stars in our local part of the galaxy. We've got another image coming up which shows this. There's the galactic center there.
Yeah.
So seemingly a long way away. But when we understand the metaphysics and the golden ratio and the lattice and the realm of the what they call subplank phase space, which is the 0 point and that threshold of going into the superluminal, when we understand how that works, then we can easily understand why scientists say two locations can interact in real time over any distance.
Yeah.
So we've been able to give the rationale. I've got all of this on my website and different pages there of how this actually works. So when we have things like words or terms like star seed, well, a star, of course, is a sun.
Mm,
And the only way that ETs and ET groups, the Galactic Federation and these ET groups that are here in local space out in our atmosphere, the only way they can get into our solar system is to come through the portals, the Stargates. So we've got those identified here as we go on, and then they come through the sun. They go into the sun. We've got an image coming up, or a little bit about that most recent research of the portal discovered inside the sun, or they call it a black hole, of course, but it's a portal. So this is just now coming into the 3D realm of astrophysics. So
mm,
when we're doing charts for starseed, those that have come from elsewhere, they've come into our solar system through the portal, and then they come through the sun, they pop out of the sun, and then they come to the planet here, come to the Earth. So there's amateur astrophotographers, taking photographs of supposed ships going into and out of the sun, whether that makes sense or not, whether they're real or not, but, an interesting kind of little connection there. So as far as what we're looking at or where we are in the galaxy, so here we are, the galactic family, one suburb of the Milky Way. So most of the ET or star families and federations and starseed that are here on the planet are basically from the local group of suns or stars in the galactic neighborhood here. So
Yes.
whether it's the home base in Lyra for the human genetics, or whether it's the Pleiades, which is a group just here. Here's our sun, the yellow circle here. Of course, each one of these little dots here is a solar system, so massive here. The Orion belt's on the other side. We have to look away from the galactic center to see Orion in the night sky. So when we think about starseed, star family, all the galactic lore and so on, we're basically talking about this neighborhood in the Milky Way. Of course, the Galactic Administration here, alphanumeric 222, they're facilitating or they're engaged with what's going on all around the galaxy here, not just our little neighborhood. And astronomers don't really have names for stars over here. They're too far away.
Mm.
They're often clouded out by dust and so on. So when we're talking about star seed and star family, the majority of it is just really referring to our little sector, our neighborhood here of the Milky Way.
Cool.
When- Yeah, and when we turn around, I don't know how clear this is. When we turn around, imagine that now we're looking out at the stars. So there we are. I'll make this a bit bigger.
Hmm.
As far as I see this one, is that we have astronomers and they draw maps of the stars and then they draw up the constellations and so on. And they do it in a very, in my view, a very sloppy way. For example, here's Leo. Now, there's the lines connecting up the stars that form the constellation of Leo. It actually looks like a line facing in this direction.
Mm.
But normal astronomy and maps and books about the stars and the constellations, they would put a photograph of an actual lion or a drawing of a lion. But the stars aren't linked up to actually show that it's a lion, even though it's the same stars,
Mm.
exact same stars there, they link them up in different ways. So in my view, this is what the adepts and wise people from the past, this is the map they had, a map where when they looked out, they could see that the actual stars and the constellations looked like what they actually, represent. So here's Taurus the bull, like a pointed nose. Here's the horns here. Then there's a body, it's kind of thin body there, but two legs, little tail. Pleiades is on this node here, so we know where Pleiades is. Here's Cetus the whale. There's a different map than is generally understood as the map of the stars, the map of the constellations. Of course, we're still just in our local sector of the galaxy here. This is
Mm.
where all these stars are. And over here, we've got the Galactic Centre. Here's Lyra up here, home base for human DNA. We've got the Galactic Centre here. We've got Sagittarius here. You can see him standing here. He's got his arrow, his bow.
Mm.
And in the myth, he's just releasing his arrow. Well, there's the Galactic Centre in that direction. So he's aiming, he's pointing his bow and he's firing it towards the Galactic Centre. So anybody that's into astrology and wants to get to grips with the actual astronomy of it, it's well worth getting this book. This book is called The Stars, A New Way to See Them by H. Ray, R-E-Y. He was a comedian or a cartoonist. I think he was a cartoonist back in the 1950s, and this was just one of his passions. So he created a book drawing up the stars and or connecting the constellations in this kind of way. Well worth checking out,
Mm.
especially for remote experiencing and so on. So I'm going to make this a bit smaller again. Here, this one.
Yeah.
So this is an image, just a kind of like a compiled image here, where nowadays people who are in the realm of esoteric research and so on, they see things like in this kind of polar dynamic situation. You've got a human brain, left, right brain, and you've got the galaxy here, or here's another view of it, side on. Um, this would be, sorry, I'm going to sneeze, I think.
That's okay. Go for it.
Um, so
Hmm.
here's the Taurus. or the vortex going through the center of the galaxy here. And of course, you've got either the top side or the bottom side or the left side or the right side.
Mm.
So, in a sense, the galaxy itself could be considered as a brain or like a galactic information center. And this is what I've been able to tap into with the alphanumerics, is to be able to access information. And the more, or let's say, the better the question is, transpersonal, not about personal stuff, but the more true to reality the question is, then the more clear the answer comes back and cross-reference with the alphanumerics.
Right. That's so fascinating.
So this is just the research now. This is just months old. So here we are, that astronomers now are beginning to see or believe that they have the maths to prove that at the center of our sun, there's a black hole there. So that's understandable. When we think of the metaphysics of how creation works, there's no surprise there that there would be a torus vortex going through the sun north to south pole. And right at the center where those vortices meet, the center of the torus, that's the local or the sun portal, the sun stargate. We looked at that. We had the alphanumeric number here, 253, heliocentric astrology. So we're drawing up astrology charts from the sun's point of view, not the Earth's point of view. We'll clarify that in a couple of sentences.
Hmm.
So when we look at the sun as a portal, at the center of the sun as a portal, and we understand what science says, two locations can interact in real time over any distance. What we really need is the destination coordinates. Once we've got the destination, like in the TV show or the movie Stargate, you dial up the destination coordinates, you jump through the Stargate, and you arrive at the other, at the destination there. So here's the maths of the size of the black hole that they've found in the center of the sun, linked to the size of the massive black hole at the galactic center. And they're based on harmonics of the golden ratio. And we use the Planck, which is the smallest measurable wavelength. That's the 0 point in spiritual phraseology. That's the borderline of going into the superluminal. So they use the exact maths. It's hard to explain, but they use exact maths for the ratio, the length of the Planck torus, the radius of the smallest torus. Multiply that by golden ratio, by golden ratio, by golden ratio, and they get to the exact radius or diameter of the portal, the black hole in the sun. Then they multiply that by the golden ratio, by the golden ratio, and they keep going, keep going, keep going, and then that equals to be exact measurement scale the radius and diameter of the measured portal, or the what they call a black hole at the galactic center. So this is going to be important because as we get to the next couple of images, all these stars we were talking about before, or the ones that I've looked at so far, Pleiades, Vega in Lyra, and so on, the distance between our sun, or the galactic center and our sun, that distance is one length or one harmonic or one distance of the golden ratio. And the other stars, the ones where we find ETs like starseed and ET groups coming from, they are part of the golden ratio mathematics or distances or harmonics, where the distance from our sun to the galaxy and these other ones are on nodes between us, the galactic center and here, on these galactic ratio nodal points, which means two locations can interact in real time. You've got the destination coordinates. There's no surprise that these star seeds are coming from these places.
Mm.
So we'll get to that in a moment. So here we are again. We'll get to, I don't know whether people find this interesting. To me, this is all fascinating. But so here we are again. Now, in the movie The Stargate, there's the Stargate itself has 10 points here, 10 nodes around here. And it's called a decagon. And a decagon is the only flat surface polygon where the radius from the center out to the edge, and each length there, each distance around there, those 10 legs, that ratio between the length and the radial vector there and the edge vector is a golden ratio. So flat surface, Stargate there, when you want to make a jump through the portal, you jump through because the decagon is what turns flat surface geometry, polygon, flat surface Stargate, into flow or directional momentum. We've got another image coming up about the cross section of the DNA helix. This is the bDNA helix, most common, and it's the best for storing, coding, and transmitting genetic information. The cross section of that DNA helix, the bDNA helix, in cross section is a decagon. So we just put the decagon in there just to show what that looks like. So as we go on here, we have here another image here. And this is when we get to get Joanna's chart here. This is what we use as a frame of reference for the charts that we do. We've got the decagon here, points here. We've got up here, we've got the direction to the galactic center. So we line up one point to the galactic center. And then in our solar system, the sun, the planets, Mercury, Venus, Mars, outwards to Neptune, even out beyond Neptune, the recently discovered trans-Neptunians, and out to the Oort cloud and the heliosphere, the distance out from the sun, if we use the sun to Earth as one, you call that ratio number one, we can plot the distance to the other planets inside our Earth and outside, right out to the very circumference, the heliosphere itself. They're all part of harmonics of the golden ratio linked to the smallest Planck scale golden ratio harmonics, linked to the solar sun portal, linked to the galactic center. So now we're building a framework of resonance using one formula, the golden ratio, with one starting point, the keynote in music. So the keynote is the Planck scale or Planck measurement. So we've got a galactic wide fabric, a lattice work, where it's all based on this one simple formula called the golden ratio. It's interesting to know that you can get an app called iThrive, and you can look at a real-time graph on your screen. You put this app, you connect it to your heart and your mind, your brain, and it shows that when we meditate, as we're meditating, our heart starts to generate a cascade of harmonics based on the golden ratio. At the same time, our brain slips from our thinking brain, beta brainwave states, it slips down alpha and lodges in there with alpha and theta as we're meditating. So this app shows us in real time that when we're meditating and stop thinking, our heart generates harmonics of the golden ratio. That's radiation out across your environment, cohering the environment, and your brain waves slip into golden ratio threshold.
Absolutely brilliant. I mean, it's all so intricately woven in this divine design that it is kind of mind-blowing, but I love that you are bringing it to light in a way that we can kind of understand it. So it's absolutely brilliant, Graham.
Thanks. It's well known that our solar system, so they call it the solar ecliptic, which is just like saying the equator of the Earth. So there's a general common equator of the solar system, meaning the planets generally are orbiting around the sun along this equator. Some of them are a little bit above, some are a little bit below, some of them kind of are ecliptical, go a little bit above and then a little bit below. But there's a general common equator called the solar ecliptic. They know exactly, where that is and what it looks like. So they also know, this is astronomers, they know the Milky Way equator. They know, we see it out at night, the Milky Way. So they know that exact equator. So when you put the solar system's equator and interface it as it is with the galactic equator, the offset angle where the planets are orbiting around the sun, the offset angle between the solar and the galactic equators is 62.9 degrees. That's the angle. Well, in the golden ratio spiral, that common spiral, that golden ratio spiral, I've got a few images here that show it in different ways. That offset angle is just over 63 degrees. That's down at that Planck scale. So the exact angle for the golden ratio spiral, the vortex that's going through the torus at all scales, or the optimum way of doing it, is 63.3 0.43 degrees. So now we've got an astrophysical connection. We've got our solar system tilted to the galactic equator, solar system equator tilted to the galactic equator by 63 degrees. That's exactly where you'd expect to find a Stargate portal, where the galactic, or where our solar system and the angle there, that creates a portal dynamic. If the sun, or if our solar system was tilted at a different angle that wasn't 63 degrees, then there would be, in my view, there wouldn't be the potential for ET groups and star seeds to enter into our solar system. The portal's not there. The geometry's not there. The
Right.
vortex is not there. And that the Earth arrives there at that crossing point, crosses on its orbit around the sun, crosses the galactic equator, meeting the solar equator on the solstices, December 22nd or so, and June 22nd.
Mm.
So that is the best time to make that connection to the galactic realms on those dates.
I love work. I've always worked at the solstices and the equinox actually, because of they feel so powerful. So yeah,
Many people are tuning into that.
yeah,
Yeah. So there's a lot about the geometry side of it, and I've got heaps of that on my website. That's one of my main themes, because I want to bring in this understanding with evidence of how we have lucid experiences and how we can have repeatable lucid experiences. I'm aware many people have lucid experiences. Sometimes they're out there in the galaxy, sometimes they're meeting in some galactic council and so on, but they find it difficult to repeat those. So our work is to make some of this repeatable by understanding how it all works, the actual metaphysics of it all.
yeah.
Uh, so this one here is just an image, but it hopefully grounds the experience that I'm talking about here. So here we have the galaxy. We've got the golden ratio spiral. We often see this image. Center of the galaxy here. Here's the spiral, the white line there. And I've just written this in because I know where basically some of the stars are. If we got our sun out here, this little white star here, Proxima, which is the closest sun, and Alpha Centauri there. You've got Arcturus over here. We've got Vega over here. We have to sort of pass Vega as we go into the galactic center. So as I said, and I've got an image ahead which is showing the actual golden ratio harmonics to each of these stars. So here we are, that's the visual side of it. And
Mm.
over here, the well-known sunflower seed.
Mm.
So it's well known that the seeds of the sunflower are based on what they call Fibonacci numbers and spirals. So the seeds are not randomly positioned there. They're plotting, they're growing along the spiral.
Yeah.
In nature, it's called Fibonacci,
Mm.
which is close to the golden ratio, very close, but not exact. Once you get down to the micro scale, the Planck scale, and some of these measurements down there, you slip from almost to precise. So we don't need the precise in nature. It's close enough at the Fibonacci.
Mm.
So what I did here, I just repeated the same. I brought this image and this image together to show that there we are. We've got the galactic center there. That's at the begin. That's at the center of the sunflower. We've got the golden ratio spiral going out here. So the other suns, where I was talking about before, are on the nodes of the golden ratio lattice between the galactic center and our sun. So each one of these suns here, Arcturus and so on, it's like they are exactly where a sunflower seed is here on these spirals, exactly positioned there. That's why we can connect. That's why we have intelligent rapport and ET families and galactic organizations and so on coming from some of these locations, because they can do a quantum jump. They can go from here to here more or less instantaneously and arrive in our solar system. This is how it works. This is the new physics, the new metaphysics of why some of these things are taking place and why some of these ET groups, are capable of coming here, not going elsewhere, but they're coming here.
Right.
So this is just a snapshot from my website. We're almost through this part, I think. This is I run the computer or run the maths, and we use as a measurement the distance in light years from the galactic center to our sun. And then we've got these local stars here, Proxima and Procyon, Pleiades, Arcturus, and so on. And then it runs through the mass to show that, yes, these stars, that symbol there's the golden ratio.
Mm.
So these stars are actually harmonic nodes on a galactic-wide coherence field called cosmic intelligence, if you like. Um, that this is why this is how it works. This is why these things are even going on. Same thing here is a different one. So I did the same here with I was mentioning this before.
Mm.
The distance out from our sun to Mercury, to Venus, to the Earth, Mars, right out here, we've got Neptune, but then we've got a bunch of what they call trans-Neptunian planetoids recently discovered in the last 30 years.
Mm.
These ones are the fifth dimensional archetypes, these trans-Neptunians, partly because Neptune's the crown chakra in astrology, and that's where the left-right hemisphere of the brain come together, male, female, merge there. So these trans-Neptunians are beyond that. These are the 5D archetypes. Then we've got the Oort cloud and this heliosphere and the Kuiper belt. So all these distances from the sun going out here, they're based on the one formula, the golden ratio, linked to the black hole in the center of the sun, linked to the smallest measurement, the Planck scale. So that's one, we call it a scale in music. The keynote is the Planck measurement, like C, playing in the key of C or D, and all the other distances here, going from that smallest scale, Planck, then it goes to hydrogen, that's exactly golden ratio measurement or harmonics from the Planck, and then it goes from there. We just jump right out through our brainwave states to the Earth, the 7.83 hertz of the Earth, that's part of this as well. Then we jump off the planet, go out through the solar system, go out into the galaxy, to the galactic center, all based on one formula.
Brilliant.
So this wasn't known until, just a few years ago. I think I'm going to leave that one now because we've jumped out of the galaxy. Perhaps we can do that another time because we do extend beyond the Milky Way, but it starts to get more abstract as we go.
Yeah.
I will leave that one. So this was more fun than anything. This one here. Over on this side, here's the blue there. There's the golden ratio spiral curving around there. There's two here, one going left, one going right. And where they cross and when they go out here, these distances out. So this is a perfectly mathematically, geometrically drawn pair of golden ratio spirals like that. So with these distances across here, this is what I'm trying to get across here, is that exactly these distances, that's where we find the distance out from the sun to Mercury, to Venus, to the Earth, going out through the solar system. And it creates this cone here, this cone of, now we know it's 63 degrees or just about 63 degrees. So when the solar system's moving along as it is orbiting the galaxy, it's creating a wave in the solar in the galactic fabric. It's creating a vortex like this as it's moving along, and the planets are just rotating spirals like windings of helixes around your DNA. So this is the solar system's DNA helix, which we then go and apply to the astrology that we're doing. So I think I'm going to leave the rest of that now, and then we're going to get to your chart here in a moment.
Mm.
So I'll just mention this one first as we're moving on here. I was saying before about the B-DNA, and of course we know it's a helix. We grab that helix and we look down in plan view, in cross section, if you like, and it's well known it's a decagon there. This is the way that the geometry, the phosphate sugars and so on, they nest into the DNA there. So
Mm.
that's a decagon. Science over here knows that it's the best at coding. It's the best at replication. It's the best at storing and transmitting genetic information. So if there is ever an example of what the Akashic Records is, here it is. Just go over what it says there. So in Egypt, for them, the Akashic Records was called Amenте, the halls of Amente. There it is. You can flip the letters around for the word Amente, and you get IM10. IM10 is a decagon. So we use the decagon, we call it astrogenetics. Solar fire for the phi ratio, PHI, the golden ratio is just another name for it.
Yep.
So we use that. So in our astrology, we've got a few things going on overlaid into the same sort of glyph. We've got a resonance, real-time resonance with the galactic center. And we mentioned in the alphanumeric number 222 that the center of the Milky Way alphanumerically equals the same as galactic administration, celestial civil service. Civil service. So we're not, it's not just the material world of physics. We're talking about intelligences, ultra terrestrials at the galactic center. So we're using the galactic center as our frame of reference in our astrology. And then in the solar system, we understand that the sun and the planets and so on are based on the golden ratios. And we know that the DNA helix transmitting, storing genetic information along the timeline, decagon. So we use the decagon in our astrology charts. We know it's a Stargate portal threshold,
Mm.
event horizon. So we're mapping almost, we could say that what we're doing in our astrology is we're bringing the future, the galactic center and the part of our oversoul which is already interacting with the galactic center in a more conscious way. We're bringing that from the future into the present. We're mapping that with the chart and the planets, and we're bringing the past into the present as well. So we're doing three things. We're bringing the past and the future into the present. And we're mapping it in the solar system using the decagon linked to the galactic center. And of course, we line it up with specific stars and so on that are relevant to identify specific star family interactions. So this is where we bring in your chart here.
Mm.
So this is Joanna's chart, and I can't remember exactly when we did this now. I think it was a couple of years ago, was it?
Yeah, definitely. I think it was at least a couple of years ago.
Okay. So here's the map, and this is generally what all charts would look like in a general kind of way. We have the galactic center up here. Now, sometimes if a person has direct connections to Lyra, which we would say is home base, as far as many of the star seed are concerned, the human DNA template was projected from the galactic center towards Lyra. So I would put a glyph here showing Lyra if that was relevant. So
Mm.
it's not exactly the same in every case, but
Sure.
what we have here is we've got the decagon lined up with the galactic center there, the black lines around here. In Joanna's case, because she's actually born, here's the Earth here.
Mm.
Here's, well, I will explain now a little bit. So we're just clarifying what I mean here by heliocentric astrology. So, and then we'll get back to this. So, say, for example, a person is born right now while you're listening to me say this. So, a person is born right now. Generally, what astrologer does, or we go and look at the ephemeris, what happens is from the Earth's point of view, it's like getting a telescope, looking out at the stars, or sorry, the planets orbiting the sun from the Earth's point of view. You look out through a telescope at the sun, then the stars, uh, then the planets, and you plot the planets on the flat zodiac glyph here.
Yeah.
But what you've done there is that from the Earth, which is like, say, think of the nucleus of an atom, you got the nucleus there, and then you got the orbiting electrons. And those electrons are shells. There's different electrons outside of each other. They're clustered, but they're often in groups, certain number and then a certain number. So the planets orbiting the sun is kind of like the generalized view of the nucleus of the atom and the orbiting electrons at different distances from the nucleus. So what generally happens in regular astrology, whether that's called Vedic astrology, whether it's called galactic astrology, whether it's called starseed astrology, doesn't matter. If they are not using heliocentric, what they're doing is they're drawing up a map of where the other planets are from one of the electrons. So the position of the other planets are not in their true positions. So what I mean by that? So here we are. We'll just look at Joanna's chart. So here we are. Here's the Earth. So we grab our telescope and we look at where Mercury is. And
Mm.
there's Mercury there, this one here.
Yeah.
So in Joanna's geocentric chart, Mercury wouldn't be there. Mercury would be more likely to be in her normal chart I would say it's probably in Virgo, if you know your geo
Yeah,
chart.
I think it is.
Yeah. So that's because in the geo chart, what's been drawn up is a view. So drag that Earth, there's the Earth there. So they kind of drag it over here where the sun is. Of course, the sun's always in the middle. The sun's not orbiting around here.
Mm,
So you're looking from this point of view, and you would look at Mercury, and in the geo chart, because Mercury's actually there in the helio chart, so you'd look at Mercury and say, oh, there it is, it's just there. So it would be Mercury in Virgo. So also in geocentric charts, no one will ever have Mercury opposite Venus. No one will ever have Mercury square their Venus, because Mercury and Venus are inside here of the Earth and they're always orbiting here. So they never appear to be opposite each other.
mm,
So in the helio, when you're drawing up a chart from the sun's point of view, you're hopped in the sun, the star seed activation location there, the portal into the galaxy, into the solar system. So now we're drawing up a chart from the sun's point of view, the heart of the solar system. Of course, the Earth, flip the letters around, you've got a mini heart for our aqua green Earth and so on. So in the helioastrology, you're drawing up the planets in their true positions from the sun's point of view. Easy to confirm. If you were to go to Mercury and you would ask those that are living on Mercury on the day here in Joanna's chart, for example, where are you? Where are you Mercurians? Where's your planet? They would say we're, in this case, 28 degrees tropical Aquarius. Now, they've probably got a different way of terming that, but that's where it is. Whereas in the geo chart, it's over there in down here by the sun in Virgo. So we're doing a heliocentric, sun-centered style of astrology. We're using the decagon, and in Joanna's case here, she's born on one of the decagon nodes linked to the galactic center, whereas not everybody is. So in some cases, I have a smaller decagon in here, which is lined up with the Earth here, and there's a kind of a double decagon, if you like. Didn't need it here in Joanna's chart, because what she's revealing to herself here and to me is that she has this intimate connection to the galactic centers, the galactic administration. She's born on the node of a decagon. Now, many people, I've done famous people's charts just to learn this myself over the decades. So I'll just give you a few examples of other people who have made enormous impact here on the collective timeline. Krishnamurti, born on a node linked to the galactic center.
mm.
It's like Joanna here. Dan Winter, if you've heard of Dan Winter, born on the node of a node here linked to the galactic center. Three of the Beatles, three of them, not not Ringo, but the other three, born on nodes of the same decagon, which is lined up to the galactic center. So that's showing a soul group incarnating to change the collective timeline.
Mm,
And many, many other people, famous people who have made major contributions here are on the decagon nodes here linked to the galactic center. Another way of saying that is that your future or our future self, the integrated oversoul that we're a part of, our integrated oversoul as an ongoing entity is already really intimately integrated with the galactic administration and is, in a sense, would be, in a sense, our future self, even though we were resonating in real time here. So, in one way of saying that is, if you're born on the nodes linked to the galactic center here, like Joanna is, then we're very tuned in to our future self, and our future self is very intimately guiding our present, what's going on in our present life, our assignment, and so on. Also in the chart, we have things like place name asteroids. There's asteroids called Atlantis. Here's another one over here, Hyperborea, Alaska.
mm,
So there's asteroids which are named after famous locations where different ET groups landed on the planet and set up camps. So we put them in the chart and we get a pretty clear readout of what specific star family and where you've landed on the planet if you've been here for a few decades, back in the past there. And so a certain ET group arrives. Here we got Pleiades. So I've drawn a line here. Oh, sorry, to the Orion belt here.
Mm.
So the Orion ETs, there's different stars there, different ET groups coming from Orion. They basically set up camp in Samaria. Of course, you got good guys and bad guys, different ET groups coming and bringing their war battling onto the Earth. So all that's going on as well. Exactly here as well is what they call the trapezium M42. This is really the closest local major stargate there. Lots of battles going on around who's in charge of that stargate. So that's right there, lined up to the central star in Orion's belt here. Joanna, if a person is born exactly on the nodes here linked to the galactic center, often it's more difficult to identify their specific star family that they've had lots of experience because they're more tuned into the galactic framework, the galactic side of things, than their own specific star family. But often they person leaves a message. So what I found here I've got about 700 planets and asteroids. I put them all in the chart and I delete all the ones that are not relevant.
Mm.
So they just started to pile up around 22, 23 degrees here. And I know that that's the exact lineup out in this direction to the central sun there, Alna Lam, the center of Orion's belt here, and
Mm.
also exactly at that degree is the trapezium stargate. So that's, again, Joanna leaving a message here for me to decode that she has an intimate connection to the star family there. And also, perhaps this major Stargate portal where many ET groups have been battling over who takes control of that Stargate. And they sort of have control of the sector of the Milky Way.
Mm.
So there's a lot that can be put into the charts. Another little aspect here. Here's the yellow circle, and here's the green Earth. So this is the birth Earth circled across in it,
Yeah.
and this is the sun forced or projected from where it actually is over here, because this is a regular, in general astrology, Joan is born here 9 degrees into Virgo. So I put the sun there just to make that clear.
Yeah.
So in what they call the progressing astrology, so what that means is for every year you live, there's a style of astrology where all the planets and asteroids, they all keep moving. They're all going at their own unique different speeds. And so this would have been back there maybe 3 years ago when we drew up the chart.
Mm.
Joanna's progressing sun was up here at 23, is it? 24 degrees.
Mm.
And the progressing Earth was down here. So that has specific relevance as well. The progressing sun, it takes a whole year for the progressing Earth and sun to move 1 degree. That would have been a time there. I don't know whether I said to you, but Arcturus is out in that direction,
Mm.
24 degrees there. So Arcturus, a very advanced group of ETs, or maybe they're even ultra terrestrials, don't need physical bodies. So they're very advanced in the sense that they're very tuned into the galactic administration and so on. So in my view of the map of the birth chart here, in the progressing side of it, I probably, I would say something like during this period of progressing past Arcturus there, there's a lot going on as far as being able to tune into the broader scale, the galactic framework of things, the galactic center, galactic administration, and so on. So that's about it as far as the chart goes.
Mm.
Hopefully that makes sense there. Of
Yeah,
course,
I mean, it's
what
so good, I think, to just give people an understanding because it really shows the difference between the traditional astrology or charts they may have been familiar with themselves and then the differences here, which is what I really wanted to highlight for everybody. So, yeah, it does make a huge difference as to where things are. And even like, I mean, I guess down to basics is your star signs totally different, can be totally different, can't it?
that's right.
Yeah.
Another thing I hadn't mentioned is that, the sidereal uh, side of it as well. So even though we haven't mentioned that, the actual zodiac here, the Western tropical glyph
Yeah.
here, isn't actually lined up with the specific stars.
No, no,
Uh,
I actually wanted to mention that when you were bringing it up and we had the star map because
oh, right.
I do find that interesting because it's like, well, if that's the case, then we're sort of working off inorganic information that doesn't directly translate into our experience. And what I love about the work that you've brought forward and all of this intelligence and wisdom is that it feels more organic. And I have been working with your galactic astrology calendar the last couple of years, actually, and sort of getting guidance as to when to do events and when to tune in and different things. And I feel like that's been really powerful to start realigning with the more organic cycles and aspects and nature of this experience that we're in, because everything has programmed us otherwise. And, part of what I think the whole point is to get out of that and back into the true organic nature and correspond with those elements and star systems and intelligences that are there for us to support our journey. But sometimes we're just not able to see, hear, or know it because we're so ingrained in maybe the status quo of society or all those structured kind of imprints that we have been programmed with.
Very much so.
Hmm.
That programming is, it's difficult to get out of, even
Right.
when, when you got most astrologers doing tropical geocentric astrology, it's makes it more difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll show you where you are. So there's your sun there, and
Mm.
that's 9 days into tropical Virgo. But I'm going to go back to this map here we were looking at before,
Mm.
and I'll show you where that is. Uh, on this one.
Mm.
I'll have to make this bigger. The sun is sort of shining in here. Can hardly see my
Oh.
screen.
Nice day in Golden Bay then.
Yeah, it's a sunny day today. Whoop, now I've completely. Oh, here we
No, there it goes.
are.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm just going to go over here and show you where you are. Oh, okay. So here we are here. Here's Virgo here. See this woman lying on her back, two legs here,
Hmm.
uh, a skirt, I guess, and head there and arm out this way. So there we were. You were born 9 days into tropical uh, Virgo. So one would assume that the direction would be out here about this point, if this is
Mm.
like a whole sign, say. It's pretty big, so it covers more than 30 degrees, Virgo. So you would assume that this would the you can't see it here, but the orbital path is going around like this. There's a little dotted line there, but the Earth's going around like that. So you would assume that, oh, yep, I would be lined up here on the day you're born. But no, here's Leo here,
Mm.
this, and here's the main star in Leo here,
Mm.
and that is at 0 degrees of tropical Virgo. So you're born 9 days after that. So we go through about here. So you would be born here. You would be
Mm.
born smack bang in the middle of the constellation of Leo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that means that in the 3D world, your three lower chakras, your physical, emotional, and feeling nature, which are locked into the 3D world and the way that you interact when you go into the bank or the supermarket, that's Virgo. That's
Mm.
okay. That's the 3D world. But when you get in touch with your deeper self and more in tune with reality and so on, then you begin to interact with and display some of the traits, characteristics of Leo.
Mm.
It's totally different than Virgo.
Yeah.
And the more you tune into that, then the more you're tuning into your real self. And of course, that links you to the Galactic Center and the Oversoul and so on.
Yeah, well, it's funny because Leo is I've got a ton of Leo friends. Get on get on with them like house on fire. Although I guess they're probably different actually if they come into your astrology understanding as well. But interestingly, all of my work and the information that's come through to me has all been based around heart technology. And, as you say, born in the heart of the lion, and therefore it was very interesting when these light beings showed up and told me that the most relevant and effective tool on the planet was heart technology. And and it inspired me to investigate that and move through it and use and bring through energy activations that are multidimensional use of our heart in that regard. So,
Sounds good to me.
yeah,
Like I said before, you can get that out and you can prove that your heart, everybody's heart,
yeah.
they all get the same results, radiate a cascade of golden ratio harmonics. I know that's just a sentence, but when you realize those golden ratio harmonics, that's the way the solar system's laid out. It's the Earth ley line grids around the planet, the portal points around the planet, the galactic side of things. So the heart there, as you say, is the basic foundational fundamental approach to interacting and becoming part of the wholeness, the oneness and all that. And it's nowadays we can map it out actually with the geometry and so on to actually prove what you've just said there.
Mm. Yeah, it's fascinating. Really
Mm.
fascinating. Wow, thank you for that. That was incredibly interesting and insightful, and I'm sure it will inspire many to investigate their galactic astrology with you in this heliocentric way that seems so powerful. And I know when I went into all of the different information about the various asteroids and other elements that, in that focalized point in my chart that gathered and all of that, a lot of it just resonated so strongly. I was like, ah, that makes all the sense in the world. Um, so it was, yeah, really, really, really quite fascinating. Um, and
Yeah.
what do you think about the current uh, state of play on the planet right now, and where we are at? Like, do you do forecasted look into the upcoming um, cosmological alignments from that heliocentric point that might denote where we're at, what's happening, what's shifting, and what's your sort of point of view on that?
Yeah, I have done that, and I point people to my website. Not that I'm after getting their chart done, but there's so much on my website and my different pages there. And
Mm.
one of the pages, I forget what it's called now, but it goes into the cycles of the planets and the conjunctions and
Yeah.
how they connect to global scale events that are going on.
Mm.
So, just to sort of summarize it in a couple of sentences, hopefully, is that we have what we call coherence or heart technology. So we
Hmm.
have coherence, and that coherence, now we've proven, is based on the golden ratio.
Mm.
As that spiral goes closer and closer, spirals in towards the Planck scale down there, it's getting faster and faster. It's accelerating.
Mm.
So it accelerates in what they call golden ratio leaps. So it's getting faster, exponentially faster and faster and faster and faster. So everybody that is involved in heart technology, compassion, empathy, and all these things, the arts, the music, permaculture, all these kinds of things, globally, what that is doing is it's creating this enormous, coherent, we'll call it implosion or fractal scaled acceleration towards the future to bring coherence onto the planet here. So that's happening. And one way of seeing that is in the last maybe decade or even less, in the last decade, bad acts, negative acts or groups of people or governments or whatever who are doing negative things around the planet, partly via social media. The global eye is now at a stage in the collective timeline watching what is taking place on the planet in real time as it's happening. So 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, there was a time lag before when the negative acts were being done and when the collective was sort of up to scratch, they were sort of understanding it. But now it's happening in real time.
Mm.
So to me, that's where we're at. The collective eye, call it social media and everybody that's aware and watching what's going on, is in real time taking note of what the bad actors are doing. On the other side of it, the opposite of coherence, which
Mm.
is called negentropy, no entropy, it's cohering more and more, faster and faster. Entropy, which is the opposite of that in a way, is uh, it's kind of things falling apart or things coming to a stillness or things unable to expand. It's like, for example, when negative people are doing negative things and thinking negative things, they don't have the heart coherence creating golden ratio harmonics, which span out across the landscape, cohering the field of the earth and the ley lines and so on. They're doing the opposite. energy which is generating from them is another kind of geometry based on different patterns. I can go deeply into that, but other patterns which are not fractal, they're not
Mm,
accelerating, they're in fact stalling. Another way of saying that is like black people, native, well, African Americans and so on,
mm,
they have just like phrases like chill out, man, be cool. Well, that is beginning to cohere. That is cohering. So a coherent person is more chilled out.
mm,
Whereas the opposite, heating is, that's entropy. It's like having no engine, no oil in your car, in your engine. So what happens now is because the global eye is identifying the negative in real time, they're scrambling, they're heating up. They're coming to a point where things are going to explode. Their timeline is collapsing. It's incoherent. They're fighting amongst themselves. All the things there about the pyramid structure, and at the top of the pyramid, you've got the emperor and everybody else is scrambling to the top to try and get his position. So all that is taking place. We're watching it happen in real time for the first time here in, thousands of years probably. So that's where we're at in the moment, at this point. And
mm.
we're just sort of watching that negative side of things collapse,
Yeah, wow.
falling in on itself. Of course, people get hurt along the way. So I'm
Mm,
not trying to, say that there's no, there's nothing going on there. Many people are suffering because of this, of
mm.
course.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, it's interesting times. I was sort of contemplating about it yesterday, and it's so much overwhelm and so much overstimulation and so much inorganic stuff kind of being thrown at us left, right, and center. It almost is having the opposite effect and actually bringing people back into themselves, which I love, and bringing people back to wanting to simplify into the simple things in life and back to nature and the slowness, and get out of this kind of false kind of construct of this busy, frenetic, chaotic space that is an over reach of like information and bombardment of so many different things all the time. So I do think it's helping to turn the ship in a way. And as you say, it's falling in on itself really, just by the nature of what it is and what's transpiring. Um,
Hmm, hmm.
mm,
I mean, that negative timeline is going to carry on probably,
mm.
except instead of it being the predominant timeline, it'll be a fractured little timeline over in one corner somewhere,
Yeah, yeah. Shall I stop the screen share? Have you finished with
Oh yeah,
anything in the presentation? Just so we
yeah,
can
we've done that.
see
Yeah.
us. Perfect. There we go. Yeah, I find it so interesting just asking for others' take on what's going on, and I thought it was really interesting your interpretation of all of that. It's, quite similar to mine in a way, and um, I feel like, tools like the galactic astrology and understanding things from a geometric perspective in a way, as the kind of codex, universal codex of this reality, I remember I was very, very drawn to sacred geometry, and I did all that when I was about 15 years old. I was so in it, and the golden ratio and the phi and the different things with Drunvalo, Melchizedek, and the flower of life, and like the seed of life, and all of those things. I mean, I was right in there, like in my early teenage years, just drinking it all up, and so. I find it interesting that a lot of my work now brings in different geometries, and some of which I don't even understand or am familiar with in me. I have to look it up.
Yeah.
Have to, and I'll hear something like hyperdimensional geometry, and I'll be like, that is not even a thing. And then I'll look it up, and I'll be like, oh, actually, it is. Okay, there we go. There it is. Or like a tesseract or something. Things that I haven't been super familiar with. Have come into my channel energy activations for people to utilize with their light body, and all of that. And I don't know if you want to discuss any of the other tools that you utilize to work with people's light bodies. Is it geometry based as well?
Well, in a way, Um, Again, I just got so much from my website.
Yeah.
Um, so let's say that in the realm of light bodies, there's a like an alphabet of light bodies. That meaning that you start with one, which is cool. That's where you start, and then now there's a more subtle light body or a more potent light body.
Mm.
So there's sort of like a number of light body thresholds or levels you can kind of walk yourself through or teach yourself through. So in one sense, at the simplest way of saying it, is that a person who is basing their life on compassion and empathy and the organic side of things, they're creating their light body. That's easily proven because even with Drunvalo and some of those early teachings on the light body, it was
Mm.
all about the Fibonacci numbers and the spins and so on.
The
So
macabre, and it was so complicated, the star tetrahedron, and like it was, I
yeah,
remember
so
it being super complicated.
yeah, well, even like things have moved on now from
Oh
that
yeah.
level of Merkabah. So
Mm.
um, a person who is so some people are not interested in geometry and they don't have to be, but as long as they're or doing the organic thing, whatever they consider to be organic, their organic thing, and they're compassionate and empathetic and so on, then
Mm.
their heart is generating this cascade of golden ratio harmonics. So it's building their light body whether they know it or not. So they're building their light body as a result of their thinking, actions, and feelings and so on. So that's enough. Some people, that is it. They don't need to go and study the geometries or do any kind of, specific spins around the auric field and so on. It's because that's not
Mm.
their path. That's not
Hmm.
their thing. So, that's the most important thing is that those golden ratio harmonics, that's the fractal that links you to the rest of the universe, time, past, time, future, all time, all space, the other party of a soul family. That's it. That is the linkage medium itself.
Mm.
And it can be built on in different ways. Of course, you can extend that and carry on and work with it in different ways. But that would be the main thing I would just point out to people is that any action that's based on empathy and compassion and following your true path and the true bliss, as Bashar would say, and that's that's it. That you're building your light body then, and of
Mm.
course, everybody then gets real time on the go instructions via that experience, via doing that. Don't need
Mm.
someone else to tell you what to do because you're getting your own real time connections and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting. So do you think in I know that you were like, oh, and maybe change the name of the starseed astrology or whatever, but as everyone who generally comes to your do you believe, because I know there's various belief systems or suppositions about what the planetary construct is, who's here, who's what, there is a like, oh, some people are starseeds, some people aren't, or everybody has an element of galactic DNA and we are the merging of many galactic DNAs within us. Like, what's your personal take on that kind of thing?
Okay. Well, I've studied many things, theosophy and the history of which ET group arrived where. I've studied Ra and the Law of One and different groups like this. So my friend and the Lyra and that side of it. So my view on that is that this planet, along with other planets, not just here, they have their own unique because the sun is an entity, the Earth, Gaia is actually an advanced entity, not way beyond our level.
Mm-hmm.
So the Earth has got its own project, and the Earth part of the Earth project lasts billions of years. Part of the Earth project is to support the growth of the first realm, the first dimension, if you like, the realm of the growth and transformation of rock. You know, the rock goes into sand, becomes crystals, and then you've got the second level, the emotional, the realm of plants, the realm of animals, and they've got their own journey and so on. And then you get into the higher. mammals or the higher, apes and so on who are verging on, like the primates, verging on rational thinking. So to me, that's what happens here, or has happened here, as part of the ongoing Gaia Sophia experiment. And then where that joins in with some of the earlier ETs that have arrived here, the Arcturians setting up the continent of Mu in the southern Indian Ocean, and later on Lemuria in the Pacific and so on. So they installed, or sorry, they introduced an aspect of their own genetics. Now, not genetic engineering, but they introduced, because they were already highly advanced, compassionate, and so on, they introduced something into the mix there. Not exactly 100% sure exactly what it was. So as that was going on there, about the same time, maybe a little bit before, when Mars went through a catastrophe, there was already, I think they were from Orion, there were already there, individuals there in Mars. Same with the asteroids, which was the planet Maldak. So both those planets had populations on them, and I'm not sure exactly where they all came from. So when those planets sort of couldn't sustain their populations anymore, they came to the Earth. They were transported to the Earth by the Galactic Federation and so on. So back there in Lemurian times, you had primates, part of the Earth project. You had survivors from Mars and Maldak. Then you had the arrival of the Arcturians, who introduced some of their own makeup in some way. Then over in Atlantis and the Atlantic, you had the Pleiadians and Aldebarans and so on. They were arriving and setting up and putting their genetics in there. Then you had in Sumeria and so on, you had the Orion ETs, and you had those from Sirius in there, Jesus and so on, bloodline. So from there, you had the flood and the catastrophe 13,000 odd years ago, and those in Atlantis, Pleiadian ETs and so on, they went up to the Arctic, become known as the Hyperboreans. Some of them went to the inner Earth, the Argatherians.
Mm.
Some of them came down through Scandinavia. So the Scandinavian, that's Pleiadian genetics. And then Sumerians, uh, Noah's Ark. So many of the Orions and the Syrians, they went across to Turkey. And so that's where that line ended up. And so there's a number of things going on from different ET groups that are, in some cases, genetically engineering slave labor. So that's them, and then they sort of shift due to planetary changes and so on. So they're carrying on their genetics in the different races, especially the Western races and the Arabic races and that side of things. And you've got over in the Americas, Alaska and South America and Polynesia and Southeast Asia, you've got more of the ins the input of the Arcturian ETs.
Mm.
So you've got a number of things all going on at different times. So many of what you said there earlier on is correct. There's different things going on,
Mm.
but some of it is part of the actual Earth project itself, Gaia's own project. And then, of course, a lot of it's come from other places to overlay onto that.
Mm. Right old melting pot, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's so interesting. There's so many different kind of theories about it that aren't all quite, on the point, I don't think. So it's always interesting to ask and see what one thinks. I'm actually, last question, Graham, curious to know about your chart and considering the work that you do and the things that you've been bringing forth, like where are you in relation to the Galactic Centre, or any particular kind of alignments that are pertinent that showcase why you are the way you are and why you've come here to do this work? I'd be so curious.
Right. Well, I'm not born on one of the nodes linked to the Galactic Centre,
Right.
but I am born lined up with um, a couple of galaxies, which they call the antennae galaxies. It's
Ah.
galaxies. They've taken photographs of it, And the way that those galaxies are coming together, they look like antennae. So other aspects of my chart link to other um, extragalactic sources.
Mm,
And another one links directly to Rajal and Orion.
yeah,
So I've got a kind of like a stairway of locations which are either direct past life or part of my, soul family, which I'm part of or part of my experience. So I've got a kind of a stairway of connections or influences. And if
fascinating.
we get together again, we'll go through what I call the cosmogenetic family tree, which goes out of the galaxy and goes on to some of the broader, and bring that in with the sacred geometry and so on. So
Mm.
that's always kind of interesting as well.
I love that idea. It'd be great to yeah get together again. I'm sure there'll be some appetite for it for sure, and I certainly have it. Well, thank you, Graham, for your time, for coming on and sharing this really incredible wisdom, tools, and this, beautiful astrology form of astrology that is just so unique and beautiful. And I don't know if you have anything that you lastly want to share with everyone before we sort of sign off and let everyone know where they can find you?
There's lots of other things on my website about music, the music of the spheres and
Cool.
starship design, and not made of metal, but like a light body,
Yep.
but a group light body, teleportation, and yes, so there's lots there to read if anybody's interested in just some of these topics. I've kind of hopefully woven them together using one framework, the golden ratio, and how that links them all together. The heart technology, as you called it.
Yeah.
So hopefully, don't have to get a chart, but just go and have a look. There's probably something there that's useful.
There is a wealth of information on your website, that's for sure. And yeah, and I know that you periodically post things about the different alignments that are pertinent in the moment as well on your Facebook page. And so
Yeah.
tell us where your website is and also about, where you post most on social media so people can follow
Okay.
along.
Okay. My website is one long word, galacticastrologyacademy.com. I have a Facebook page, Graham Forscutt, my name. You'll write that there, so the spelling of it.
Hmm.
I've got a number of YouTubes, which I did about a decade ago, so I probably need to update them, but they go through some aspects of it. Got a slight few on the slide share. I don't do so much on social media, and maybe I'm a bit lazy there, but I'm getting my book together. I know my own chart.
Oh,
I've got to
exciting.
I've got to get my book together in the next couple of years, so
Fantastic.
working on that.
No mean feat. It's like,
Well, I've realized it's I had to wait for the AI to get up to scratch so I can, like the alphanumerics here, 222, and
Mhm.
I've got pages out to 600, and on each page number, there's lots of phrases that cross-reference different things that I've been interested in. But I haven't been either, I've been too lazy or I just haven't been able to weave those phrases into a storyline. So what I've been doing lately is I've been putting those exact phrases into the chat GPT and the Grok and that. And I've been saying, like, now go and research,
Mm.
make sure these topics, there's other support out there by other researchers. And now we're going to weave a thesis together, a paper
Mm.
together, combining these phrases,
Mm.
making it a little bit more readable. So I've realized now I've been waiting for this level
Yeah.
of AI, which I can now interact with and tell it to do specific things.
Take all the grunty legwork out of it for you.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It is fascinating to play around. When I channel through a message or an activation or things that go together, sometimes I'll pop it in just to see that what it brings back like as a reflection of it. And often it's in such incredible links to all sorts of stuff that I probably couldn't even, because I just channel it through in the pristine pure version of it, and I don't necessarily apply meaning or anything. It's coming from a different level, and I almost try not to decipher it or do that, but it is helpful in explaining it to others and also finding other links that may be there that you don't know yourself. So yeah,
Mm.
I think it's been fun to have that experience with it for sure, and in regard to what I do as well.
Mm.
Oh,
Mm.
fantastic. Well, thank you, Graham. It's been such a pleasure having you here, and I'm sure we can also look forward to doing round two sometime in the future. But yeah, thank you for your presence and the amazing work you do on this planet. It is
Oh,
so well needed and regarded, and I look forward to reading this book soon and keeping in more touch.
and thanks to you for what you do.
All right. See you later, everybody. Ciao for now.